When the unthinkable happens, and a nuclear fallout spreads across America, survival becomes a desperate struggle against the odds. The fragility of modern infrastructure and the chaos of societal collapse will strike fear into even the most prepared. Some states, however, are more treacherous than others, marked by their geography, population density, resource scarcity, or potential for lawlessness during such a catastrophe. These places will not only face the deadly aftermath of radiation but also bring additional risks, becoming hotspots for violence, scarcity, and unchecked disaster. Imagine vast cities cloaked in ash with supplies dwindling by the hour, desperate crowds swarming through the streets in search of food and water. Coastal areas may become inundated by rising tides, while arid states turn into desolate wastelands with nothing but radiation and despair stretching for miles. The fallout will exploit every weakness, and those caught unawares will pay the ultimate price. This video explores the 10 most dangerous states to find yourself in during a fallout. For those seeking refuge in uncertain times, avoiding these high-risk locations could mean the difference between life and death. Steel yourself as we uncover the perils lurking in America's most hazardous landscapes. 10. Hawaii. Hawaii might seem like a remote paradise, but in the event of a fallout, its unique geography makes it one of the most dangerous states to be in. Its isolated location in the middle of the Pacific Ocean leaves it particularly vulnerable, as transportation of supplies and resources would become exceedingly complicated in a fallout scenario. This geographical separation cuts off Hawaii from the mainland United States, meaning that any aid or assistance would take significant time and effort to reach the islands if it could arrive at all. Another major risk factor for Hawaii is its heavy military presence. The islands are home to several pivotal military bases, most notably Pearl Harbor, an iconic historical site and strategic naval base. During any global or national conflict, these bases would almost certainly be high-priority targets, increasing the likelihood of Hawaii being targeted in an attack. The presence of such military infrastructure transforms Hawaii from a peaceful vacation destination into a potential hotspot for fallout-related risks. If these locations sustain significant damage, it could have a catastrophic effect on the rest of the islands. Additionally, Hawaii faces critical challenges in terms of survival resources. Due to its reliance on imported goods, Hawaii has extremely limited self-sufficiency in food production and other necessities. In a fallout situation, supply chains would likely collapse, leaving residents to fend for themselves with what little is available on the islands. The same holds true for evacuation routes being surrounded by water. Fleeing by land isn't an option, and evacuation by air or sea would have extremely limited capacity and feasibility, particularly in a packed and desperate situation. The island's tropical climate could also pose unique challenges during fallout. Shelter would be essential to protect against radiation, but much of Hawaii's infrastructure is not designed with heavy, radiation-proof protection in mind. Combined with its natural terrain, which includes volcanoes, dense jungles, and rough coastlines, forming and sustaining a safe zone during fallout would be extraordinarily difficult. For these reasons, Hawaii ranks as one of the most dangerous states during a fallout. Its isolation, military significance, limited resources, and geographic challenges significantly increase the risks residents and visitors would face in such a scenario, making it an ill-advised location for long-term safety or survival preparation. 9. Washington. Washington State, particularly the Seattle metropolitan area, presents significant risks during a fallout scenario due to its strategic economic, industrial, and military importance. Anchored by globally renowned corporations such as Boeing and Microsoft, Seattle serves as a vital hub for innovation and commerce. This concentrated economic activity makes the region a compelling target in potential nuclear conflicts or large-scale crises. Boeing, a pivotal part of the aerospace and defense industry, supplies critical technology and products used by the U.S. military, adding another layer of risk. The technology sector, spearheaded by Microsoft and other tech giants, further underscores Seattle's symbolic and economic value on a global scale. A key factor contributing to Washington's danger in such scenarios is its geographical and coastal vulnerabilities. The extensive coastline along the Pacific Ocean places the state within proximity to potential threats coming from overseas. The presence of naval bases and military installations in the region amplifies its strategic significance, making it a high-priority target during times of war or conflict. Military facilities, including Naval Base Kitsap and Joint Base Lewis McChord, house critical operations and assets essential to national defense. Any fallout event would likely focus on disrupting these operations, resulting in widespread collateral damage. Meanwhile, beyond just military and economic considerations, the high population density of Seattle further exacerbates the risks. The urban structure and dense population amplify the potential for widespread chaos and casualties in the event of a nuclear strike or fallout. The concentration of key infrastructure, such as transportation networks and healthcare facilities, could serve as choke points, hindering evacuation and recovery efforts. Additionally, the symbolic prominence of Seattle on the world stage serves as a potential motive for targeting the state. Known for its iconic Space Needle and reputation as a cultural and economic leader in the Pacific Northwest, the city's destruction would send a demonstrative message during a global conflict, enhancing its appeal as a target. Due to these overlapping factors: economic focus, military relevance, coastal vulnerability, and population density, Washington ranks as a dangerous state in the context of a fallout. Residents and planners must consider these risks and implement proactive measures to mitigate the potential impact of such a catastrophic event. 8. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania finds its spot as one of the most dangerous states to be during a fallout for several key reasons. With a high population density, particularly in major cities such as Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, the state would likely see significant chaos in the event of widespread disaster. Crowded urban environments are inherently difficult to manage during emergencies, with resources quickly depleting and mass panic setting in. The sheer number of people in these areas would make organizing an efficient evacuation or accessing survival essentials nearly impossible for many individuals. Adding to this, Pennsylvania's proximity to historic and symbolic government sites exacerbates its risk factor. Philadelphia, as the birthplace of American independence and home to iconic landmarks like Independence Hall, may be a target during catastrophic scenarios. Similarly, the state's closeness to Washington, D.C., further increases its vulnerability, as strategic strikes or fallout events in the nation's capital could have a spillover effect, impacting surrounding states like Pennsylvania. This proximity makes Pennsylvania susceptible not only to physical damage but also to secondary effects, such as infrastructure collapse or contamination spreading into its regions. Another critical challenge lies in Pennsylvania's dense network of transportation hubs. While its extensive roadways, rail systems, and airports are typically an asset, they become a double-edged sword in times of crisis. Highways and routes essential for evacuation could become bottlenecked, leaving many people trapped in high-risk zones. The state's urban centers and surrounding areas would likely see gridlock as residents scrambled to flee, reducing the chances of swift and safe escapes. For those living outside major cities, the spillover from urban panic could strike rural areas as displaced populations flood less populated regions in search of refuge, further spreading uncertainty. Ultimately, Pennsylvania's vulnerabilities stem from both natural and man-made factors. The combination of high population density, proximity to critical national landmarks, and its maze-like infrastructure makes it a volatile location in the event of a fallout. Seeking safe, sustainable plans to move to less congested and lower-profile areas within or outside the state would be critical for increasing survival chances. For those in Pennsylvania, understanding these risks and preparing in advance is essential to navigating a potential fallout scenario. 7. Nevada. When considering the risks of survival in post-fallout America, Nevada stands out as a highly dangerous state. Renowned for its sprawling deserts and vast, often uninhabited landscapes, Nevada presents unique challenges that make it particularly inhospitable during a fallout scenario. One of the primary concerns stems from the state's role as a hub for military activity and nuclear testing. Iconic locations such as Area 51 and Nellis Air Force Base have long been associated with secretive operations and experimental technologies, leading to suggestions that Nevada could be a high-priority strike target in a nuclear conflict. Such sites may increase the chances of radioactive fallout affecting the region disproportionately. Outside of the urban oasis of Las Vegas, Nevada's infrastructure is remarkably sparse. Its rural areas are dominated by arid landscapes, leaving minimal access to resources such as clean water, food supplies, or medical facilities. The lack of developed infrastructure adds a critical layer of difficulty for anyone attempting to survive in these conditions following a fallout. The distances between small towns and the absence of transportation networks mean limited support systems and significant challenges in establishing routes for communication or aid. Adding to the dangers is Nevada's harsh desert climate, characterized by scorching heat during the day and chilling temperatures at night. Such conditions naturally lead to dehydration, sunstroke, and exposure risks. The scarcity of natural water sources, combined with potential contamination from radioactive fallout, could result in a life-threatening lack of drinkable water. Additionally, food production in this barren terrain is incredibly challenging, leaving survivors with very few options for sustenance. Although Las Vegas may appear to offer a refuge with its densified population and network of services, the city's heavy reliance on external supply chains makes it vulnerable during a fallout. Once the infrastructure collapses, Las Vegas could swiftly face shortages of food, water, and electricity, turning the population into a mass of desperate individuals. This scenario leads to increased risks of violence and resource-driven conflicts. Nevada's combination of military sites, poor infrastructure outside urban hubs, and a resource-deprived environment makes it one of the most perilous states for survival during a fallout. For anyone planning their survival strategy, avoiding Nevada and seeking a more hospitable, self-sustainable location would be a wise decision. Its arid, isolated, and potentially radioactive landscape poses too many risks for even experienced survivalists. 6. Virginia. Virginia is a state fraught with unique risk factors in the event of a nuclear fallout, making it one of the most perilous places to be during such a crisis. Most notably, Virginia's proximity to Washington, D.C., places it at a significant disadvantage. The nation's capital is a critical global hub for political power and a prominent target in the event of a large-scale attack. Should Washington, D.C., be attacked directly, the fallout zone would easily extend into much of Virginia, particularly Northern Virginia, resulting in catastrophic consequences for residents. Furthermore, Virginia is home to several major military installations, such as the Norfolk Naval Base, the largest naval base in the world. These installations, while vital to the country's defense, also make Virginia a strategic and high-priority target in a potential conflict. The presence of such critical infrastructure increases the likelihood of an attack, drawing attention to the state during any military escalation. Military zones typically face intensified threats, which emphasizes the vulnerability of Virginia in a fallout scenario. Adding to these risks is the state's dense population, particularly in areas like Northern Virginia and Virginia Beach. Northern Virginia's urban sprawl not only places millions of people in immediate danger during a fallout, but also complicates emergency evacuation and survival efforts. Similarly, Virginia Beach draws concerns due to its role as a coastal hub with strategic military importance and a high population density. These factors combine to create significant logistical challenges for local authorities trying to manage fallout-related crises, such as food distribution, decontamination efforts, and healthcare services. Additionally, Virginia's geography could exacerbate the fallout's reach. Much of the state lies within areas where prevailing winds are likely to carry radioactive particles from potential targets, such as D.C. or even Richmond, a state capital. These wind patterns could usher fallout deeper into the state faster than containment measures can be enacted, further increasing the risk. Overall, Virginia's combination of proximity to high-value targets, strategic military significance, and population density makes it one of the most dangerous states during a nuclear fallout. Residents and officials in the state face immense challenges in mitigating these threats, emphasizing its prioritization on a list of places to avoid during such an unprecedented disaster. 5. Illinois. Illinois ranks as one of the top states to avoid during a fallout in America, primarily due to the concentration of people and critical infrastructure in its largest city, Chicago. With a population exceeding 2.7 million within city limits and nearly 10 million in the metropolitan area, Chicago is a densely packed urban environment that significantly increases the risk during a fallout scenario. The sheer population size means resources such as food, water, and medical supplies would deplete quickly, leaving many vulnerable to crises stemming from shortages and civil unrest. Chicago, as a financial hub and a major transportation center, makes Illinois a potential target for attacks in such a scenario. The presence of top-tier financial institutions, including regional headquarters and stock exchanges, adds to the strategic significance of the region, potentially drawing attention during large-scale conflicts. Additionally, the state is home to critical infrastructure such as oil refineries, power plants, and transportation corridors, including O'Hare International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world. The targeting of these elements could result in catastrophic impacts, both immediate and long-term, for residents trying to survive a fallout. Furthermore, the harsh winters in Illinois present severe survival challenges. The state experiences frigid temperatures, heavy snowfall, and strong winds during the winter months, making evacuation and survival efforts more complicated. Fallout zones reduce access to functioning shelter and adequate heating sources, putting individuals at risk of hypothermia and other cold-related health issues. The winter conditions would also make many routes impassable due to snow and ice, further hampering evacuation attempts. For those without proper cold weather gear or survival skills, the freezing temperatures could be life-threatening. Additionally, the high population density increases the likelihood of rapid disease outbreaks in the fallout's aftermath. Limited sanitation, crowded living conditions in shelters, and a breakdown of healthcare services create a breeding ground for illnesses to spread quickly. Combined with Illinois' position at the crossroads of major interstate highways and railway lines, the state could see a surge in displaced populations seeking refuge, further straining local resources. For anyone planning a fallout survival strategy, Illinois poses numerous uncompromising challenges, particularly for those in urban areas like Chicago or anywhere reliant on the surrounding infrastructure. The combination of population density, economic significance, critical infrastructure, and harsh winters makes it one of the most dangerous states to remain in during such a catastrophic event. 4. Florida. Florida's geographic and demographic characteristics position it as one of the most dangerous states to consider in the event of a fallout. The state's vulnerability is predominantly due to its coastal location, which makes it highly susceptible to natural disasters, particularly hurricanes. With its surrounding waters and low elevation, Florida is frequently battered by storms that can cause significant flooding, power outages, and destruction of infrastructure, further complicating emergency protocols in a fallout scenario. The persistent threats from hurricanes underscore the ongoing risks that residents face, even during situations unrelated to fallout, making it a particularly challenging state during compounded crises. One of the key issues is Florida's high population density, especially in urban areas like Miami, Tampa, and Orlando. Miami, for instance, is one of the most populous cities in the United States with millions of residents and visitors at any given time. This high population density presents significant challenges in the event of a fallout. Resources like food, water, and medical supplies would quickly become scarce, leaving many without access to basic necessities. Additionally, crowded urban areas increase the potential for chaos and conflict, hindering organized evacuation or relief efforts. The sheer number of people would also strain transportation systems, extending evacuation times and possibly leaving many residents behind in hazardous conditions. Furthermore, Florida's geographic layout exacerbates the difficulty of evacuation. The state is a peninsula, bordered by water on 3 sides, leaving limited routes for escape. This geography creates logistical hurdles for large-scale evacuations, with narrow highways and limited connecting roads quickly becoming congested. For example, during hurricanes, long traffic jams and gridlocked highways have often trapped residents trying to flee to safer areas. These same conditions would be far worse during a fallout, where time is even more critical, and the pressure to escape a potentially contaminated environment would heighten desperation among the population. Finally, Florida's sprawling coastline makes it particularly vulnerable to fallout impacts from airborne contamination. Winds coming in from the ocean could carry radioactive particles across large portions of the state, contaminating water supplies and agricultural resources. Combined with the state's frequent weather events that stir up the atmosphere, the risks of exposure could further complicate survival efforts. For all these reasons, natural disasters, population density, geographic limitations, and vulnerability to contamination, Florida emerges as one of the riskiest states to inhabit during a fallout in America. 3. Texas. Texas is one of the largest and most populous states in America, but these factors also make it a considerably dangerous place during a fallout. The state hosts a significant number of military installations, including Fort Hood, Fort Bliss, and Joint Base San Antonio, among others. These bases are critical to national defense and could potentially be primary targets in a large-scale attack or fallout scenario due to their strategic importance. Additionally, Texas has extensive energy infrastructure, including numerous oil refineries and chemical plants, particularly along the Gulf Coast. Such facilities are vital to the country's energy supply, but also create heightened risks if targeted or exposed during a disaster, as they may release hazardous materials or cause explosions. Another major concern is the urban sprawl in cities like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin. These urban areas are home to millions of residents, making large-scale evacuation efforts extraordinarily difficult during a fallout event. The dense populations lead to logistical challenges, such as traffic gridlock and overcrowded shelters, which could hinder emergency response and put many lives at risk. Furthermore, access to sufficient supplies like food, clean water, and medicine could quickly become strained in these densely populated areas. Texas is also highly vulnerable to extreme weather events, which could exacerbate the dangers during a fallout. The Gulf Coast region is frequently hit by hurricanes, such as Hurricane Harvey in 2017, which devastated parts of Houston and surrounding areas. Fallout contamination combined with the destruction left by a natural disaster would create a compounded catastrophe, leaving residents in an almost impossible recovery situation. The aftermath of hurricanes often leads to flooding, which could spread radioactive particles far and wide, contaminating water sources and agricultural land. Other weather-related challenges like extreme heat and drought, common in Texas, may further compromise survival efforts by impacting resources and livable conditions. Overall, Texas presents a confluence of risk factors during a fallout scenario. Its crucial military and energy infrastructure make it a potential target, while its sprawling urban centers and susceptibility to severe weather amplify the hazards residents may face. The combination of these elements underscores why Texas ranks as one of the more dangerous states to be in during a fallout, highlighting the importance of preparation and awareness for those living in the region. 2. New York. New York ranks as one of the 10 most dangerous states to avoid during a fallout in America due to its unique combination of geographical, demographic, and infrastructural factors. The state is home to New York City, one of the most densely populated urban centers in the country. With a population exceeding 8 million residents in the city alone, the sheer density makes it particularly challenging to manage mass evacuation procedures or emergency responses in the event of a nuclear fallout. This high concentration of people creates critical bottlenecks, making the city and surrounding urban areas especially vulnerable in such scenarios. One of the primary concerns with New York is its proximity to major landmarks and institutions that could serve as potential targets during a nuclear event. These include Wall Street, the United Nations headquarters, the Statue of Liberty, and other symbols of national and global significance. The state also houses key government buildings, financial centers, and infrastructure crucial to the nation's economy, making it a strategic target for potential attacks. This combination increases the likelihood that New York could be directly impacted during a fallout event, either through targeted strikes or indirect effects such as fallout contamination from neighboring areas. Additionally, the limited number of escape routes from urban centers like New York City exacerbates the risks for residents. Surrounded by water and connected to neighboring states via bridges and tunnels, the city's infrastructure is not designed to handle the rapid exodus of millions of people at once. During a crisis, these transit routes would quickly become overwhelmed, leaving residents stranded and vulnerable to exposure. The congestion and logistical chaos would also hinder first responders and emergency personnel, significantly delaying aid and evacuation efforts. Compounding the risks are the dense skyscrapers and underground infrastructure, which could trap dangerous levels of radiation. The dense construction could amplify the destructive effects of a fallout, including structural collapses and fires, further jeopardizing the safety of residents. Even those seeking shelter might struggle to find adequate protection due to the densely packed nature of buildings and limited access to proper fallout shelters. For these reasons, New York stands out as one of the most perilous locations during a nuclear fallout. The combination of its dense population, significance as a potential target, and limited evacuation infrastructure underscores the importance of both personal preparedness and strategic evacuation planning for residents and visitors alike. 1. California. California stands out as one of the most dangerous states to avoid during a fallout in America due to several critical factors. With its high population density, especially in major urban centers like Los Angeles and San Francisco, the state could face significant challenges in managing fallout scenarios. Crowded areas would lead to increased competition for resources, making survival much more difficult. Dense populations also pose a heightened risk of widespread panic, lawlessness, and logistical failures, turning such regions into chaotic and dangerous areas during a fallout situation. Adding to the vulnerability, California is home to vital military installations and major tech hubs, such as Silicon Valley. These areas make the state a potential target for an attack, especially in scenarios involving nuclear weapons or other catastrophic events. Strategic locations like military bases and critical infrastructure in California could likely be prioritized by adversaries, increasing the probability of fallout. Such targeted events would not only leave the immediate areas devastated but would also produce long-term radioactive contamination, further endangering survivors across the state. Natural disasters present another significant challenge. California is well known for its susceptibility to earthquakes, wildfires, and droughts, all of which exacerbate survival difficulties in a fallout environment. An earthquake during or after a potential nuclear event could disrupt evacuation routes, cripple emergency responses, and destroy already limited infrastructure. Wildfires could sweep across large areas, adding to environmental hazards and making safe settlements scarce. Water scarcity, due to ongoing droughts, would further intensify survival struggles, as even basic needs like drinking water would become difficult to meet. Furthermore, California's sheer size and geography pose logistical issues for evacuation. Its vast coastline, sprawling metropolitan areas, and mountainous terrain limit viable escape routes, leaving many residents with no practical option but to shelter in place. However, sheltering in place requires access to robust protective measures and adequate supplies, which may be unavailable to much of the population during a fallout. Overall, California's combination of high population density, strategic significance, and vulnerability to natural disasters firmly positions it as a state to avoid in the event of a fallout. Preparation and risk awareness are critical for those residing in California, as survival in such a volatile area would demand immense resources, planning, and adaptability. Conclusion. Surviving a nuclear fallout is a harrowing challenge, and certain states in America pose significantly higher risks due to their unique characteristics. Factors such as dense population centers, strategic significance as potential targets, limited infrastructure for evacuation, and vulnerability to natural disasters compound the dangers residents would face during such an event. States like New York and California exemplify the challenges associated with urban density, critical infrastructure, and natural hazards, while others may share similar vulnerabilities based on their geography or societal dynamics. Thorough preparation, awareness of local risks, and proactive planning are essential for minimizing the threats in the most dangerous states. Ultimately, understanding the challenges posed by these locations can help individuals make informed decisions that could vastly improve their chances of survival in a fallout scenario.